The International Organization of Securities Organizations, also known as the IOSCO, has floated a new platform that was designed to protect retail investors. Now, the new platform was onboarded last week during the Global Money Week, in which financial literacy was highlighted for retail and young investors, especially in the developing economies. Now, let me chat today and more with my guest, Johnson Chukwu, a market professional and group CEO at Carry Asset Management. Great to have you again on the Arise Exchange tonight.
Thank you, Bossy, for having me. Good day.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Hope you had a very great weekend.
Yeah, I did. And I guess you also had a good weekend.
Thank you so much. Yes, I did. What do you make of the IOSCO's new alert platform designed for retail investors?
Well, Boston is very apt now, and it's something that actually would say it came at the most auspicious time. Of course, the International Securities and Commodities Alert Network, ISCAN, is actually designed to help retail investors. And we all know that retail investors may not have the resources to carry out in-depth studies of investment opportunities that are there in the open space. And now we're talking a globalized world where you go online and you see a lot of investment opportunities. As a retail investor, you have maybe your 100,000 naira, or 50,000 naira, $1,000 or $500, and you want to make that investment. You need a source that can confirm to you that the investment you are making is not fraudulent. And that's why the ISCAN alert platform is very important, because it gives retail investors the opportunity to double-check investment opportunity they see online in any country in the world. Bear in mind that financial regulatory authorities are members of IOSCO, are required to submit alert directly into the platform, and any investor, be it retail investor, be it bank, be it broker, be it a platform service provider, can confirm and make sure there is no issue on an investment opportunity that are there in the public.
I know, and you and I know, that markets protects retail investors in everything. Regulators look out for retail investors because they're the one who's got very small savings and what have you in the market. So the market tends to focus on retail investors' protection. Do we have similar mechanisms for retail investors' protection in our market? Or why is this important? I'm sure you remember the early days of trade alerts in the Nigerian market.
Yes, we have. In the first place, Nigeria is a member of international securities organizations, so we are going to benefit from this international securities and commodities alert network. But beyond that, at the local level, the regulators, NGX and Securities and Exchange Commission, are very, very unrelenting in protecting retail investors. And like I said, some of the reasons why retail investors have to be protected is that they are the small-time depositors or the small-time savers, and any loss of their investment could actually endanger their livelihood. Beyond that, it is the confidence that retail investors bring to the market that boosts the market confidence, the overall market confidence, as well as the fact that the retail investors are the ones that drive, call it, multiple activities in any market. So it's necessary to protect them. Again, they also do not have the financial resources to protect themselves. They do not have the resources to carry out in-depth studies of investment instruments available there. So they are the most vulnerable of all the operators in the market. And that's why the society, every regulator makes effort to protect them. They are protected here. We also have trade alerts here that informs you if there is any issue on your trade. I mean, if there's a trade happens in your transaction, you get to know. We now have a direct cash settlement that ensures that your payment goes straight to your account when you sell your stock. And you are notified by SMS alert of any transaction on your portfolio. So those are safeguards that are put in place within the Nigerian local market. But I also said that even the ISCAN will benefit Nigerian retail investors because it gives you global access to any entity, any offer that have some level of issue in terms of integrity, in terms of if it meets, if there is any fraud in it.
So this looks like a very important step forward in the global financial marketplace, securities market, talking about the annual Global Money Week, which targets young Nigerians in financial literacy. And what you're talking about, the alert, will be very crucial in the youth trying to get an early knowledge about how the marketplace works, how they can make investments early in life, and transiting from just saving money to making safe investments.
Yes, both of them came about the same time. You talk of the second wave of the iScan, which is what we were discussing earlier, the introduction of the iScan, the launch of International Securities and Commodities Alert Network. At the same time, last week, between 17th and 23rd of this month, the Global Money Week was celebrated, and the theme of this year's Money Week was Think Before You Follow. And wise money tomorrow. Think before you follow, wise money tomorrow. Basically, they want to sensitize young people on the knowledge of money management, on knowledge of financial management, on maintaining emotional strength or emotional wisdom or emotional knowledge of dealing with money, and also what I call deferred gratification. Deferred gratification about the knowledge that you can actually defer your expenditure, your consumption today so that you'll be able to save. So the Global Money Week is basically to guide the young people, to help them develop knowledge of money management, knowledge of financial management early in their life. And that is very critical for you to have a successful economic life in your adult life.
I love that. Think before you follow. Think before you make the money. With everyone following everybody else on social media these days. So before I follow you, Johnson Chukwu, I followed you for a number of years. I've got to find out. So before you follow me, find out. This is very important. But again, this is important if you are investing in companies in the market. So I'm sure you've seen the UBA numbers today. The new market week is teeing up. UBA started today. That stock was up roughly 3% today. I'm sure you don't miss any of the numbers as it were. So what are the high points of that UBA financials for you?
I think one of the high points is that we saw a major growth in their top line. We saw a growth of over 100% in their gross margin. We saw, net interest margin. We saw a growth of more than 50%, I think 60% on their net commissions and fees. But unfortunately, we also saw an increase of about 68% in their operating expenses. Of course, some of these increases could be attributed to the fact that the change in the currency value. So we saw a material devaluation of the currency, which means the volume of transactions or the value of transactions increased materially. So what that means is that you look at some of the major performance indicators or indices. And in terms of profitability, we saw a 26% growth in profit after tax of the bank, principally because there was a reduction in tax burden or the tax burden of the bank. But then, if you disaggregate the figures further, you will observe that profit before tax only increased by 6%, principally because there was a material increase in operating expense, which is reflected in their cost-to-revenue ratio. The cost-to-revenue ratio increased from about 39% in 2023 to about 50% in 2024. So in as much as UBA is growing their top line, their revenue, they have to watch their cost. And I believe the management of UBA will take note of that the cost actually eroded part of the profit that would have come to shareholders. But on a positive note, if you look at the price of UBA, which closed about 37.8 naira today, and you consider that they made an earnings per share about 21 naira, it then means that the price earnings ratio is in the region of 1.75. So it simply means it takes less than 2 years to recover your cost of your investment in UBA if you buy UBA stock at 37.8 naira, given that they made an earnings of about 21 naira per share. So in terms of valuation, which is why you talked about appreciation in the price, if you consider the earnings of 21 naira per share, you will actually think that current price of 38 naira 70 kobo, which is close today, is relatively undervalued, because that simply means the payback period is in the region of 1.5 years to pay back the cost of buying a UBA stock. So it's still a good investment at the current price.
I'm sure you didn't miss the dividend, the final dividend of 5 naira per share. You just didn't touch on that, but I'm sure you wouldn't miss that, by the way.
I couldn't have. There's a declaration of dividend of 3 naira per share. That gives you a dividend yield of region of about 7.8%, which for an investor, a couple of things why I didn't emphasize on the dividend yield is because if you look at dividend yield about 7.8%, at a time when the Treasury bills yield is in the region of 20%, 22%, so you think the dividend yield is understated. But if you consider the fact that the earnings yield is about 57%, that is earnings per share divided by market price per share, is about 57%. You realize that in terms of earnings, the value created by UBA in terms of what is attributed to shareholders is more than twice what you earn from investing in fixed income instruments. So for an investor, you're not just looking at cash dividend, you're also looking at increase in the value, the retained value that the company is creating, which is why I talked about earnings yield about 57%. So for those who are looking for cash, there's some cash that will come to you. It may not be comparable to return on treasury bills, but in terms of overall return on investment, you're talking about 57% return on earnings per share. Earnings per share given the current market price.
Okay, so let's sum it up. I'm sure we floated a few of this group CEO, Oliver Alawaba, talking about the latest earnings. And part of what he said was that the earnings from UBA reflects the global diversified network that the UBA is doing. Well, what's your take on that? And say they're going to do ex-Nigeria, entire Africa is now contributing roughly 50% to the group revenue.
Yes, okay, let me just roll back a bit. What I was referring to, earnings yield, not earnings per share. Earnings per share was 21 naira, 7 kobo, but earnings yield is about 57 naira. One of the things that we must give UBA credit, the diversification of, is sovereign risk. Because if you are saying Nigeria no longer account for the huge, the level of share used to account for in terms of their earnings, it then means that today, irrespective of what happened in any particular sovereignty or any particular region, the bank's earnings will remain stable, and that's one of the benefits of such a diversified financial institution.
All right. Great to have those insights from you as always, sir. Monday evening. Thank you. We appreciate it. Have a pleasant Monday evening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.